Hey there, I'm Christine Weber. Welcome to my weekly live stream. I am the founder of Subtle Yoga, and I love to support mature yoga teachers. So thank you for being here. Please leave a comment. Let me know where you're coming in from. If you're watching the replay, let me know if you have any questions about this video or any other videos you'd like me to make. So today I'm talking about functional asanas, and I want to show you a functional version of triangle pose. So why am I talking about functional asanas? So there's been a big movement, I'd say in the past 5 years or so, around yoga to become for yoga to become more what's called functional. And the idea, and that actually comes from the fitness world and physical therapy as well, with the idea that the exercises we do should be functional. They should have some applicable function in daily life. And I remember this was probably 15 years ago. I was talking to a physical therapist who said a lot of yoga poses are good for if you want to do yoga poses. That's what they're good for. They're good for doing yoga, but they may not be transferable to the rest of the world. And I mean, I understood it a little bit, but over the past 15 years, my understanding of that has evolved so much. And so one of the things I think that is problematic in sort of the mainstream yoga that's out there is a idea of what poses should look like, right? So you have this idea that there should, for example, in Parshvakonasana, right, that there should be the side angle pose, that there should be a straight line from it's even hard for me to do that, a straight line from your hands to your foot because I'm so used to not doing it. Or there's an idea of what a perfect up dog should look like, or there's an idea of what a perfect triangle pose should look like, right? And I can see why movement professionals like physical therapists would say that may not be functional. And in fact, it may even be dysfunctional. I remember one of my earlier yoga teachers, this was probably more than 20 years ago, telling me how she had ruined essentially her sacroiliac joint. She had kind of pulled the sacroiliac joint apart and you can't really pull it apart, but that's way over the top. But she did sprain the ligaments. I want to be clear because it's pulling your sacroiliac joint apart really doesn't happen, but people can sprain the ligaments, and she had done that very severely through triangle pose by doing way too many triangle poses. So what I would suggest to that is that we, for many, many years in the yoga world, there has been this understanding that the form trumps the function. The form is more important than the function of the pose. And hence, you get people saying yoga is not a functional practice. Of course, they're going to say that. Movement professionals are going to say that if they are only exposed to yoga where form trumps function. I was trained in the Vini Yoga system many, many years ago. I started training in it, but I still do trainings in that system. And in that system, which comes from Desikachar, and one of my teachers is Gary Crefso, but in that system, the most important aspect of the pose is its function, not its form. So the functionality of the pose is always considered much more important than the form, right? So it could be like, and the way that people are talking about functional yoga is they're saying the function is more important than the aesthetic, right? The aesthetic would be the form, right? So when I think about a pose, for example, like triangle pose, I'm thinking about what's the functional application of triangle pose. One of the most powerful and important functional applications of triangle pose is that it keeps the side body supple and open. And why would you want supple, open side bodies, particularly in the rib area? Because it helps you breathe, right? It's important for breathing. So the way that I look at triangle pose is not like, can I make that shape with my body? Well, what is the optimal way of moving my body to support the function of breathing? That's the functionality of a lateral bend. And I could say that about many, many different poses. Many poses have different functional applications, right? Forward bends are functional for picking things up off the floor. Backward bends are functional for many different things, like counterposing the forward bends that we do so much, counterposing all of the computer work that we do so much, counterposing cooking and being in the kitchen, all the stuff that we're doing that's much more in a forward bend. So there's functional applications of everything in yoga. It just depends on how you're using the pose. And when you start to change the perspective away from form and start to shift into function, you will have a different yoga practice, and it's going to feel better in your body. You'll have less injuries, less questioning whether or not you're doing things right as well. So, hey, let me know what you think about that. And let me show you a functional way that you may wish to try and play with a lateral bend. I don't even like to call this pose triangle. I call it the pose that shall not be named in honor of Harry Potter. Because if I call it triangle pose, people have this idea in their mind of what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to reach long through the side body and keep their spine long and maybe maybe there's some kind of twisting involved in it, but they aren't necessarily thinking in terms of what's the functional application. And as I said before, the functional application for me is how can I keep the side body supple so that breathing, so that respiration is functional. And everybody needs that. We all breathe, right? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Separate the feet, what's comfortable for you. It can be just comfortable. Turn your right foot out slightly and your left toes in. And then rather than working with and it's fine to do this kind of stuff with the hips, but rather than working with the hips for this part, we're just going to keep the hips pretty neutral. One way you can do that is by finding your waist bones. That's the top of the ilium. You just put your hands on the top of the ilium and feel like you're keeping that balanced. Another way to do it is to feel like your weight is equal in both feet, right? If you shift your hips to one side, the weight comes out of that foot. Or the opposite foot. If you shift them to the other side, right, the weight goes into the opposite foot. So keeping the weight balanced in the feet is another way to proprioceptively, interoceptively experience that the neutral pelvis. Okay, and then from that neutral pelvis, you can take a breath in, bring the arms out to the side. Exhale in place. Now we're going to use an inhale, which is different for some people, rather than an exhale, because it'll help you with that functional purpose of expanding the side body. So as you inhale, the right arm goes down, the left arm goes up. So you're experiencing that openness there, and then exhale back to neutral. And you can do that again. Inhale. So I don't care where my right hand goes. I'm working functionally and what's going on the left side of my body, right? And one more time. And then you could stay here and play with that, inhaling into the side ribs, using the breath to massage the muscles from the inside out to create the more openness from the inside out. Also, my right knee is a little soft. And then when you're ready, you can release that down. Now, another way, well, before we do anything else, just turn your feet so they're facing the same direction, then feel the sensations right side to left side. And notice how they're different. This is a really good thing to notice because it's the awareness where we start to make the neuroplastic changes, right? So you start to notice, that happened. Now we're going to do the other side, but I'm going to do it a little bit lopsided just so I can demonstrate something. Another way I like to practice this pose that gets it out of that sort of preconditioned idea of what triangle pose should look like is just keep your feet in the same direction, right? And that will keep your pelvis pretty neutral too. I mean, you can still move it from here, but for our purpose, and there's great reasons to move your pelvis, but for our purpose, we're keeping it neutral because we want to work on the side body right now. Okay, so arms out to the side, take a breath in, exhale in place, and then on your next inhale, the right arm is going to go up and over. The left arm comes down to your left leg and then floating back. I like to do in and out of the poses a few times. It prepares the muscle spindle fibers and the Golgi tendon organs for what we're doing. Just lets them know, hey, we're just doing this movement so I don't have to clamp down and hold tight to anything. Now we'll do that one more time. And this time, when you come into the pose, we'll stay here. That's an inhale. And the exhale, just soften a little bit. Draw your belly in. Use your inhale to open a little more. And you're using the breath to massage the side ribs from the inside out. And just open up those muscles. You can stay as long as you want here. I'm just for demonstration purposes. This will be our last. And then when you're ready, you can walk your feet back towards each other. So before you come out of that, just take a moment, kind of tune in, notice how it made you feel. And I hope this demonstration of a functional way of doing a lateral pose is beneficial to you. And if you're a teacher, to your students, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you want me to do more videos on a topic of your choice. And I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for being here. Lots of love.